In this lesson, we'll explore how we can sketch another caricature of Nicolas Cage by exaggerating different facial features. Alright, so in our previous lesson, we started off with our first caricature sketch of Nicolas Cage. So I like to start out, just as I mentioned in the previous lesson, by really capitalizing on certain facial features that really stand out to me, that really have a lot of dominance. And so I thought that would be his forehead. He's got a lot of real estate up there on the top of his head because of his receding hairline. So I started off with that kind of bulbous light bulb shape to really allow us to build upon that. And then also kind of pluming his hair out on the sides there really kind of draws viewers' focus to this area up here first. And then we worked in additional little features that kind of pertain to his overall essence and personality. So it can be very easy to get stuck on your first representation of a caricature. So that's why we're spending a second lesson working up another caricature of Nicolas Cage, and kind of talk about how we can maybe draw emphasis to other parts of his face instead of just the forehead. Now, as I mentioned in the previous lesson, I think he has a really long face. The forehead not only attributes to this, but also his nose. I feel like he's got just a really strong, long nose. And if you think about it, even those smile lines that come off the nostrils really help kind of create that illusion of just a long kind of face. So just as I did in the previous lesson, I like to start off just with kind of an overall form. Okay, so I want kind of a similar form that I had, but it's not going to be like a light bulb shape. It's something that's slightly larger at the top, but not too large. I really want just kind of this long, flowing, kind of droopy kind of face. That's what I'm really kind of striving towards here. And I don't want it to be perfectly symmetrical. Okay? I think having a sense of asymmetry can really add a lot of appeal and just that whimsical quality to your caricatures. Now, I still want his forehead to feel kind of large, but again, I don't want it to be the focal point. I think the strongest focal points we're going to have are the nose this time and just the whole lower part of his face. So for the nose, I'm just working in a very long kind of oval shape, kind of capturing that bridge all the way down to where the tip will be. And then if you've ever watched any Nick Cage movies where he just gets excited or emotional, those nostrils of his, they light up. And so I'm thinking about the placement of those, thinking about how large I want those to be, maybe feeling just a little bit larger than before. And then I do like the idea of still maintaining kind of those relaxed, kind of lazy eyes, so kind of angling up these simple shapes for the eyes right there, those little oval shapes right there. He doesn't really have large ears, so I'm not going to really capitalize on that too much. I really want the focus to be in just the lower part of the face. Thinking about that chin, he's got a pretty strong chin, especially right here in this top image. And I like the idea of that chin still being pretty strong, but also it's kind of crooked. I kind of like the idea of it kind of flowing just with the overall kind of bend that we have with that overall form. And then, just as I mentioned in the previous lesson, that those pseudo caterpillar eyebrows, if they were connected any closer, I would think that they were like a caterpillar or something. So when you're creating a caricature, often it's done with the intent of having a humorous response. And with all of these caricatures that we're creating of these actors, that's really the end goal here. We're not trying to create something that is insulting or demeaning. We're just trying to create something that's fun and silly and whimsical. So that's often kind of what the focus of a caricature is. It's done with good intentions. Now, that's not to say that caricatures aren't drawn with the opposite intent to create something that is insulting or demeaning, but that does happen, but that we're not going to focus on that. So with a lot of the contour lines I'm working in for, like, say, the cheekbones now that I've kind of got my overall framework, I want all these lines to kind of just flow kind of with that overall base shape that I worked in. So kind of working in the the cheeks and the cheekbones there, just kind of having them flow, kind of being angled very sharply downward. And to really kind of push that illusion that his face is long, I think we could increase the distance from the top of the lip to the base of the nose. So just having a little more space right there, I think will allow us to achieve that. So I'm bringing the mouth down just a little bit lower. I still want that mouth to be kind of crooked going off to the side there like we had in the previous lesson. Having those little pursed lines there in the corner as well, I think helps a lot. And those smile lines, I think, also help just kind of create the illusion that he's got a long face. And that'll really help exemplify that space that we're kind of increasing right there from the base of the nose. If you look at the tip of his nose, by the way, he's got a very small kind of tip. So I'm kind of really kind of trying to push that right here, just having a smaller tip, kind of very pointy. And now just kind of starting to shape out those nostrils just a little bit more clearly. And then the bridge of his nose, you know, it's a little wider at the top, but it kind of tapers in as well. So just a couple little lines like that, having them kind of taper in. But already, I'm loving this. I'm loving this design. It's starting to come together very nicely. I'm starting to really kind of get a feel of just the character's essence. Kind of jump back here to the eyes. Really kind of want those sloped kind of sloped, relaxed eyes. Really want the upper lids to feel really heavy, kind of drooping over the pupils and the retina. I don't want the eyes to feel as open, so I want those lines to be kind of covering part of the pupils, and then also just kind of having some lines right there for the little pouches under his eyes. And we'll jump back up here to the forehead. Again, I don't want it to be as large. I still want kind of some of those similar lines that we have. But again, in addition to exaggerating like we are doing, kind of keeping some of those lines pretty simple, not getting them too overly detailed. It can really become a hindrance on the overall way you're trying to convey his entire face, which is kind of that long kind of face. And then again, just kind of working in kind of a similar sketchy lines for the hair. He doesn't have a whole lot of hair coming forward right there in the top of his head, so kind of working that in as well. But just really quick, as we kind of start to finish this out, let's make a quick comparison. And you can see that our first caricature sketch of Nick Cage, it looks and feels like Nick Cage, but I feel like this one does too. So it's just a different way of seeing something, kind of focusing your attention just on different areas and how you can kind of exaggerate and push them. Okay. So that overall kind of initial form that we had there, that kind of long, kind of droopy bean-shaped form, I think allowed us to kind of kick off of that. It's kind of our stepping stone. Kind of give him a little bit of an Adam's apple there. And there you have it, Nick Cage. So in between lessons, I'll kind of tighten this up just a little bit more so you can see just a little bit more clearly in the next lesson. In our next lesson, we're going to jump on to another actor, Michael Cera, and we'll start with our first caricature sketch of him. And again, just as we've done with Nick Cage, we're going to be working up 2 caricature sketches for all of the remaining actors that we'll be covering. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope you stick around and as we continue on to work up some caricature sketches.